Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 82 of Cutscene Convos. We've got an absolute monster week this week. Our character profile is Omni-man. We've got Ahsoka episode 4. We are casting the DCU's Batman. I've decided it's us.
Oh, exciting.
There's also some big updates regarding the MCU Disney Plus schedule. More nerdy news goodness in smaller chunks, and then we are wrapping it up with Moon Knight versus Green Arrow in the Content Championship. But before all that good stuff, Horizontal, how's your week been?
It felt like it was going great till like today, and then suddenly I felt very stressed because I go away. Basically, I go away on Saturday, but I basically go away tomorrow. Because it's me, the girlfriend, and our friends. So there's 4 of us, and because of that, I've rented a bigger car, and I'm driving us. So I've got to pick that up tomorrow.
Is that because you're the only one old enough to rent a car?
No, I'm the only one who drives.
Oh, okay.
Also, but so it's like I've been trying to get ahead on work and get on top of it. It's like I thought, oh, I'm doing fine, and then it's like just suddenly today I'm like, I have so much to get done still. Like I still had work to finish off today. Obviously, then we had the podcast tonight and all the editing and stuff like that. Plus, I still need to pack, and then tomorrow I've got to go pick up the car and all that. It's like suddenly I was just like very aware of how close it is to I'm going away, and I'm like, I'm not ready.
Like it.
There's not enough time, but there is enough time. It's just I know that like come tomorrow night, I'll be chilling with my mates and I'll just be like, oh, I'm ready for holiday now. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll pick the
It's
car
always
up
the
and I'll be like chilled, but yeah, I'm very stressed. But other than that, like busy with work, playing some DayZ. But yeah, kind of just been mad with work this week to get ahead of before my week away on holiday. How's your week been?
It's you from the future, Hori. Your week away was great. I've been off this week. I needed a break, but like Jen didn't have any time to take off, so I was like, I'm just gonna take a week off at some point, and I'm gonna play a load of video games. And then when I was looking for the week to do it, I was like, when does Starfield come out? So I booked it off for this week. Starfield came out on Wednesday for people who didn't want to pay extra. I did 14 hours of streaming Monday and Tuesday to try and get Baldur's Gate finished. And every hour that went by, I felt 2 hours further away from the end of the game.
Did you finish?
Because it felt like every hour or so there was another bit of information. No, I wasn't side questing. I was like, I'm getting this fucking done.
Okay.
And I'd get a little bit, and I'd get a new bit of information. I'm like, oh my god, to the point where I ended stream early on Tuesday because I was a bit tired. And I was like, and Jenna was like, oh, did you get close? I was like, no. There's so much more to do.
So much story.
I genuinely feel further away from the end now than I did when I started on Monday
morning. Dear. That's not good.
While like mainlining, I'm just like head down, just grinding. And then I streamed for like 12 hours yesterday.
Something wild like that. You did two big sessions.
Yeah, I did 9:30 till 8 hours later. And then I did 8 till midnight. And I got on today and I did another 6 hours, and then I had to stop to make sure I was ready for this tonight. Because it would be the most me thing ever to not have any work this week and somehow not find time to get my notes done.
Yeah, it'd be late for the podcast.
Yeah, be like, can we delay it till 9? I haven't watched Ahsoka yet.
Oh my god, imagine.
But yeah, it's good. I'm loving the game so much. It's a good time to be a gamer. But let's get into our character profile. We've been rattling off the Invincible ones this week.
Yes, we have.
We covered Invincible. We covered Atomy. I thought it was only about time we got onto the big dog, Omni-man himself. Nolan Grayson, aka Omni-man, first appeared in Invincible #1, January 2003. Nolan Grayson is a Viltrumite, as in from the planet Viltrum. His father was Argal, the leader of the Viltrumites. However, when Nolan was young, his father was assassinated by someone who didn't believe in the warmongering ways of the Viltrumites any longer. Nolan was very young when his father died, so didn't know him. And all of the knowledge of who Nolan's father was hidden to protect him from any enemies of the Viltrumite Empire.
Okay.
And after a civil war to get rid of those who were against the Viltrumite way of death and destruction, and leave them with only the strongest and best Viltrumite specimens, he joined up as a soldier. He went around conquering various planets, and he was such a good job and such a phenomenal warrior and leader that he was actually given his own command of his own unit.
Okay.
However, this is when things started to go wrong for Nolan, because a virus made by the Coalition of Planets wiped out 99.9% of the Viltrumite race. They were causing such a problem and they were striking such fear into the hearts of the universe that the Coalition of Planets came together to create essentially a species-ending virus to literally try and wipe them all out because they were too dangerous.
Shit.
Unfortunately for them, it was only 99.9% effective, leaving few Viltrumites, but still a dangerous number. It was after this that the Viltrumite Empire, weakened but not defeated, had to change their plans of world conquering. And they changed more into the ilk of a secret agent, espionage agent, saboteur, where they would send a lone Viltrumite to a planet. That Viltrumite would embed themselves into society, the culture, learn about the planet, and then, using their tactical prowess, work out a way to topple them from the inside and destroy the planet before they even realised what was happening. And that is what Nolan was sent to do on Earth. He was one of the first, and he was one of the volunteers for this dangerous mission. Nolan would eventually go on to marry and have a child, Mark, who would go on to be the hero Invincible. However, Nolan is interesting because he had to play this character of the superhero for so long that no one saw it coming. It was a complete shock. Cecil Stedman, the head of, I forget what the organization's called, completely trusted him.
Yeah.
Because he'd been here for so long, and it shows the tactical prowess as well as the physical danger of a Viltrumite, that they can hide their true nature for so long, even to the most paranoid of people, such as Cecil Stedman, to gain the trust of an entire planet so that they can then bring it down quickly from the inside. However, when Nolan went to exercise his grand plan, his child stood and fought against him. And this leads to, I want to say, I don't know if it's just iconic because of the way it was memed, but also the fact that we've not got any further into the story yet. But the scene of Mark beaten to a pulp, leaning up against a rock, and Nolan just banging on his head, and he's like, think about it. The older you get, the slower you age. You're going to live for thousands of years, and this entire planet and everyone you've ever known will be dead while you still look 30 years old. Join me, live the Viltrumite way, because that is a group of people that you'll be able to know, and they'll never leave you, they'll never die. We're untouchable. Very, very interesting character. I'm not going to go too much further, purely because I do not want to give any spoilers for what's coming in Invincible. But very interesting character. I think, although I don't like to class him as a Superman clone, because I don't think he actually is. I think he deserves enough respect to be treated differently.
Yeah.
But to the general public, he is seen as a Superman clone. I would say he's my favourite of that ilk. Of the evil Superman, evil god above all that can do anything. I think the way he's written in the comics, the way he's portrayed, and the way he progresses is very, very good.
Yeah, the way
and anyone who thinks Homelander is on that level needs to give their head a wobble.
Yeah, the way he develops makes him way more interesting than others that have done that trope.
Exactly. Now, more onto your knowledge. Ahsoka episode 4. What the friggity fuck?
What an episode.
Yeah.
We were worried about pace. I don't
Yeah.
think we need to be worried. We hoped that this would be the episode where they make the jump and it progresses.
Yeah.
And
they absolutely had to make the jump this episode.
it was essentially straight into it with the prep of the jump and everything. But so I have a bunch of notes. I did a lot of deep diving as well after this episode of checking things and like Easter eggs and stuff I'd seen people talk about. There's a lot happens in this episode, and it's like, I mean, for starters, so that a fun thing I've seen since last week that someone worked out is the planet Cetos is essentially named after the Greek god Ceto, which then led to the Latin for whale, which is Cetus. So it's essentially the whale planet.
Which is the planet they were launching from, which is where all the Purgle were.
Yeah, which is very cool.
The most Star Wars thing ever.
Yeah. It was very cool to see Huang kind of hold his own.
I thought that when they threw a punch, I was like, fuck yeah.
I was like, yeah, the man's learned a few things. And he went, I don't know if you noticed, but he went very, very General Grievous using his extra arms. He swung a punch with his, that was very cool to see. Also, we got we saw early tension between Ahsoka and Sabine, which I think was foreshadowing for what came.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we got a very, very cool fight in the forest, I thought.
Yes, I enjoyed that. The fuck is Marek? Is he...
Okay, so...
Is he Dathomirian? Is he like in Jedi Fallen Order?
Everyone's theories. Zombies? So everyone's theories of it's Starkiller. It's
Ezra.
It's some fallen, whatever. You're all fucking
Sam
wrong.
Whitworth.
Yeah, you're all fucking wrong. All it was a Night Brother that most likely, like you say, similar to what we saw in Jedi Fallen Order when they all come back as zombies, if you remember that from the game.
Yeah.
On Dathomir. We know that the Night Sisters can raise dead. We've also seen them do weird shit with bodies. We saw them magic up maul some legs. Yeah. So that green dust effect, we've seen similar with when Maul's brother died, the big chunky guy, he turned to green dust. I make the prediction that the Inquisitor lightsaber, it was just something they had.
What was available.
Yeah, to give to him. Or
and he was covered up because he's an ugly zombie boy.
Yeah, and it was just some raised thing. It was just some Night Sister magic shit.
What I will say is, all I'm going to say is Dave Filoni has done it again. I know he didn't direct it, but he wrote this episode. The death scene for Marek is very similar to Maul's death scene. You've got that moment, they square up, they line up. Instead of it being the double-ended lightsaber like Maul had it, he was spinning, and then Ahsoka just very calm and collected. Then one move, bang.
Yep.
Literally the same car. The only difference is she doesn't fucking spin around and catch him. Yeah,
it was very quick, very calculated, and I think it was perfectly done. And then I saw people say, "Oh, maybe it was Maul," and it's you really think Dave Filoni would have brought Maul back and just ruined his ending to bring him back as some random, no. It was genuinely just some Night Brother, I think, that was raised from the dead. Hence why he was in armor.
It could have been a fucking Inquisitor that
It could have been a dead Inquisitor brought back. Yeah. That also is a possibility.
Who was it they said the armor looked a lot like? Was it
the sixth or fourth brother, one of the two. So yeah, it could have been that. It's I think people were trying to too deep dive into it. But yeah, like you say, it's spinning very quick, very cool from Ahsoka. Something I also noticed in that fight. Just before that fight, when the soldier guys are there at the ship shooting them, and Sabine's getting she's this, blocking them. You see across this episode, there's a few times where Ahsoka leans into dark side tendencies, which is her like grey Jedi. Like, she clearly cares for Sabine and was like, there's one point where she grabs one of the other soldiers and moves him in front of the blasters, and then he dies and he throws the body away. She does some cool shit where she's like, doesn't care for the Jedi ways, obviously.
Yeah.
We saw the fight between the Apprentice and Sabine, which was...
Yeah, the rematch.
Which, when Sabine was using her blasters, she's fucking nuts with them.
She's
like, I don't
Mandalorian.
Know... Yeah, I know. I don't know if you noticed, there's like one bit where the Apprentice girl's running away, and it's like, the shots are like where her foot just was on the tree, or like, it's literally just missing her. The only reason she loses is because of the force push.
Yeah.
Also thought it was funny that Sabine jukes her out with a ha, and she's like, well, you've got no power, and then she goes psych and just shoots a rocket in her face.
I'll be honest, that kind of threw me off at first. Like, she put her hand up and the girl kind of braced for it, and at first I didn't realise she braced. I thought she just like worn it like a champ. I was like, oh, Sabine showing off a bit, and then she kind of looked at her really disappointed. I was like, oh no, she didn't. She was like, you have no power. And then she hit the rocket. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like a moment if you're like, oh no, Sabine, you've tried to force pull and it's not worked. And then it's like, oh wait, no, you were just fooling them. And what else happened? Oh, that's when we got the Balin Ahsoka.
That was such a good fight. It's interesting that Balin knew Anakin quite well by the looks of it.
This is the thing. We don't know. So he knew Anakin, and he knows Anakin became Darth Vader, which obviously a lot of people didn't know.
Yeah. That was like relatively uncommon knowledge.
Yeah. So how he knows that, we don't know. Obviously, we don't know how he fell out of the Jedi thing, if it was during the Order 66 stuff or what. Very interesting to know what his past is and how he knows Anakin so well. Or if it's just purely from like word around.
I have a thought.
Okay.
The way Balin holds his lightsaber gave me vibes of a very particular Force wielder.
Okay.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Okay.
And who was Qui-Gon's master? Dooku. And what the Sith known for, despite the Order of Two? Having secret fucking apprentices. And we know he had Asajj Ventress, and then not Darth Maul, his brother.
Yeah, I can't remember what
Savage Opress.
Yeah.
What if there was also Balin?
Possibly. I think so it's hard to tell because obviously you've gone like they're trying to tie it maybe to Qui-Gon. I took his like whole appearance and the way he held a lightsaber and his stance and stuff. They're very much going for a knight vibe. Like if you watch it, it's very much like as if a soldier was on defense holding a spot,
100%.
like sword
if you
up.
even look at his and Shin's armor, it looks more metallic.
And it's like a
compared
chest,
to like the Clone War armor.
It's very medieval-esque in its look, and I think that's what. And if you look at his lightsaber, it's got a little like hand guard, even though you wouldn't need one obviously on a lightsaber. But it's, I think partly
maybe he's from some other order.
Well, I think he was at the Jedi Order. I think he was old enough during the time to obviously know that Ahsoka left, and probably then saw the ending change of Anakin. I think he obviously or there is a theory that maybe Anakin had a secret apprentice after, like as he was becoming Vader. It's interesting to know where he came from, but I thought it was
also...
Go on. I was going to say, I thought it was very cool that it felt almost like they kept swapping stances to kind of weigh up how much knowledge they have to like different Jedi stances and stuff.
Don't get me wrong, I love the twists and the twirls and the flips of the prequels. I do. The way Dave Filoni choreographs his the way he wants lightsaber fights to be, with a lot of it being like almost, especially between two Force users, it being more like chess, I
Mm.
really enjoy. Especially when you're trying to, like, yeah, the good guy has to win, but we need the bad guy to not look completely outmatched here. How do you do that?
Well, that's the thing. It's like you need to set the like understanding to the viewer that like these are both people that understand and are very powerful people. So it's like they're not gonna just like have one stance and not know how to fight. They're gonna know all the ways of fighting. I thought it was very cool the little kick sequence that Ahsoka did when she's like on the back foot and she's like, fuck this, and just goes like foot again, showing kind of Sith tendencies of like a bit more aggression. Full on just does like a kick combo on him that he wasn't ready for. Then she like grabs the orb though and like full on burns her hand. Which
What's
I think
really interesting to me is he seemed to be really angry at her for something.
So I got the sense he was willing to kind of talk things out. He isn't. This is why I think he's not pure like dark side. Like we've been told there's something going on there. He obviously isn't very much like this has to be done through Jedi versus Sith. That's it. There's a fight to the death. That's not how things have to be. And I think he hoped Ahsoka being like no longer Jedi would understand that, but she was just like old tendencies. Was like he's like, of course it comes to this. Possibly that's why he was angry. I don't know. I like how he blamed very on like up front at the beginning, like blamed her for the fall of Anakin. But then I'm so pissed at Sabine. I'm so pissed at Sabine.
I was sat there after my shower with a towel on, just going, Sabine, what are you doing? Sabine, what are you doing? No, don't. I was waiting for the Duke. I was waiting for her to pull a pistol out. No, just hands it over.
I was sat here, and obviously, like, in the back of my head, I'm like, she's just going to hand it over. But I'm like, Sabine, shoot it. Just shoot the orb, Sabine. You can still 100%. Shoot the orb. Just do it. No, she's giving the orb over. It's not too late. Yeah, and she's giving the orb over. And then he fucking destroys it anyway. I'm trying to remember other things.
Do you know what I thought was very interesting?
Go on.
Jin starts trying to kill Sabine, and he steps in. He's like, no, I gave my word. We're going to honor it. That is not very dark side. Do you know what it is? It's almost like he is... I forget the name. Do you remember? I don't know if it's Legends or actual canon, but there's the really, really old school Sith from like Old Republic times who was like not interested in ruling the galaxy. He was like, the way of the Sith is just look out for your number one and backstab if you need to, do whatever's best for you. And he was just like a successful businessman because he was cutthroat as fucking business and didn't care about anyone, but he still honored his word. And it's like it's almost like he's more of an old school Sith that's not interested in absolute power, but rather being
that's what I get. I get the vibe. It's like he doesn't believe. He's essentially, I think, also grey, even though it doesn't exist. But you know what? We're still gonna always say this, but like, I think he's grey Jedi, leaning more Sith because he will use more violence at times. Hence why he's like the orangey red. I think it's very much like he doesn't care for the all-out Sith must rule everything. He wants to like have his control of his situation, so he will team up with the person that's going to be in charge. Thrawn knows that's going to like give him a certain level of power that keeps him safe, but he isn't like some noble Jedi anymore. Like he doesn't see the point in that. It's his word. He wants his own control of his power, sort of feel, and playing his own game clearly.
Yeah.
The jump. We got Phoenix Squadron. Parts.
I'm disappointed we didn't get CZ.
So, I think we are going to. I think this is them being like Phoenix leader and all that, and it's like, oh shit, we're getting Phoenix Squad. We lost 2 when it jumped. and a point to be made here is this is pre when we see the hyperspeed jump. Is it in the sequels when it destroys the ship?
Yeah.
We obviously haven't seen that. So it's like, because this is a ring, they don't get absolutely obliterated, but it does screw them up. I thought the effect of that was incredible. They did an amazing job at how that was like portrayed.
Yeah.
I think obviously we've lost the way to jump now. There's no map.
Mm-hmm.
The only other way that you could follow them is Purgles. Now, what if Phoenix Squadron got back together?
Are we going to get another show turned into Mandalorian season 3.5? Because we know that Baby Yoda has an affinity for animals and has... I mean, he's seen a Purgle in hyperspace.
I hadn't thought that.
I'm going to be quite disappointed if that happens.
I was more thinking Jason.
So this is what I was going to say. This is one of the few things I did like fully note straight away. We got the iconic "I have a bad feeling about this," which is almost exclusively said by Force sensitive people.
Mm-hmm. And across Star Wars.
I actually thought Ahsoka was going to say it. There was a point earlier on where
at the beginning,
and Ahsoka kind of looked around.
Yeah.
And I was going, I'll go on, Spin, say it, just as a little nod, so that we are like, there's a bit there. And then Jason just like almost looks like a kid who's car sick, which I think gives it the perfect thing of he doesn't realize really what's happened. His mum isn't going to twig because, they've just been rocked by a fucking...
Yeah.
Like, imagine if like your mum pulls you out of the way of a car that's almost hit you and you go, I don't feel great.
Yeah,
like she's not going to assume it's because you've got magical powers.
Yeah, I think it was done on purpose.
He was like, I have a bad feeling. Yeah. And it's like, yes, you do. Yes, you do, Mr. Jedi boy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. There's clearly meant to be a kind of a hint that maybe he's starting to feel the Force. Also, did you notice that he was wearing Kanan's shoulder, which is very cool.
Did you notice that there was a picture on the dashboard that is definitely Kanan?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Right, so where Hera's control shift is, there is just a picture of Kanan.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, the everywhere the camera is, it's just like grayed up enough that you can't see who it is. But like, it's a safe assumption that it's Kanan.
Something I've just thought, which we haven't talked about. You asked before we started recording about the
So there is a line in here that I'm sure a lot of people like me were like, that was said really weird. So when Sabine and Ahsoka are talking about, if we can't fully get this under control, we have to destroy the map, because if we can't get to Ezra, just us, no one can get there at all.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous. We can't let Thrawn return as the heir to the Empire. But she's given this line delivery that she's like, we can't let Thrawn return as heir to the Empire.
So,
and then just like, there's dead silence for like 2 seconds, like, we're all supposed to be good.
Well, yeah, it's one I think meant to like put impact on like Thrawn returning is seriously bad. It's a little overgiven, I think. Like there was a bit of extra drama for something that's, to me, I took as a little bit of like Star Wars Easter eggy. So the first time Thrawn was ever introduced as a character was in a Star Wars Legends book, I think, called Heir to the Empire.
Okay, cool. That makes so much more sense.
And obviously Legends got wiped from canon. Then obviously Dave brought him back in Rebels. And I think it's essentially like a nod to that book and his origin of where he came from and where he got like created and calling him.
That isn't canon, but maybe we use some bits from there.
Yeah, basically Dave's gone, you didn't want this as canon, but tough shit, I'm using it now, so it is canon.
That line really felt like two people who know each other really well having a brilliant inside joke, and you're just there like...
Yeah. There was a funny bit as well with the Phoenix Squadron stuff when Hera's obviously like, she's leaving and they're like, what are you going to do? And she's like, well, always once a rebel, always a rebel. Yeah. And then they're in the ship and Jason's like, why is it you can do what you want, but I'm not allowed? And it sounds like Chopper says, because she's the boss. And it's like, finally we understand why Chopper doesn't, like, he only listens to Hera. It's like, he sees her as the boss and everyone else he doesn't give a shit. And then I was like, wanted to say, like, yeah, Jason, once you're old enough, you can also do what you want. But
yeah, I liked Hera's response to just, once you're a general, you can break the rules too.
Yeah. Once you're old enough, you can stop listening to your mum. Really, I guess we should get to the juicy ending of this episode, though.
Yes. So Ahsoka gets clotted off the blood clot mountain.
Do you want to know what my guess was as the camera starts panning, right? At the end?
Go on.
I was like, she's not going to be hanging there because she would have climbed back up.
Yeah, she'd have done the little force jump thing that Obi-Wan did to Maul in episode 1.
And then
back up there.
I'm like, okay, she's probably fallen in the water. But I'm like, she's not dead. I know she's not going to be dead.
There's 5 more episodes and she is the title character.
There was a
what a twist that would have been.
Yeah, there was a excellent transition to where it looks like almost like sand when you get like the blue glowing like algae on sand. And I was like, oh, she's washed up on the beach. Like, she's just going to wake up on the beach and be like, oh, shit.
And then it looks more like stars in the galaxy.
And then it's weirdly rippling, and I'm like, hang on a second. Now, this is the world between worlds. I said it was going to happen. I said we're going to end up in there, and for some reason, this wasn't quite the reason I thought would happen.
No, we thought that's where the fucking Balaam fight happened.
Yeah, so... To which then, when I'm realizing that, I'm like, holy shit, she's in the world between worlds. One, looks different. It's more blue. I think, I saw some people being like, oh, there's got to be a reason why it doesn't look the same. Is this actually the world? Like, I think it's just...
It's a lot more difficult sometimes to get something that's purely animation looking
Well, here's the thing.
Compared to a live person.
In Rebels, it's like almost pitch black with white lines. And it's like, yeah, that looks great, but like it's visually quite plain. Yeah. And if you do that in live action, it was just like white glowing straight lines and everything. Like it would look weird, I think. So I actually really like how they've visually shown it in live action.
I thought it looked cool.
Yeah, I thought it looked amazing. Before she turned around and there was the voice, who did you think pulled her into the world between worlds? Or how do you think she got there?
I hadn't thought about it, but also I watch everything with subtitles on. So when you can just hear the mumblings in the background, I see the subtitles that say, hey, Snips.
Oh, no, I got that as well.
So instantly I'm like, okay, it's Anakin.
So,
the fuck is going on? I'll be honest, I thought it was like, you know how like when they were in there the first time, Palpatine was like trying to play a trick? I thought it might have been... Not Palpatine. Palpatine has returned somehow. But I was like, oh, maybe this is just like a concussion.
So I had two, like, obviously she's led there and I'm like, wait, this is the world between worlds. Before she's even stood up.
It would have been cool if it was younger Ahsoka.
So I was like, I was like, holy shit, is Ezra pulled her in? Again, I was like, she's here again. Ezra's done it again, and I'm like,
that'd be a very Dave Filoni full circle moment, like a really old Ezra.
Yeah, and he's just been living in the world between worlds because that's like he escaped Thrawn into there, and he's like, I can't tamper with things. I'll just live here.
Yeah, and that'd go into what I said I wanted to see, which is like really old monk Ezra who is like one with the Force because he's been living in the world between worlds. Oh, that would have been sick.
Then I'm like, maybe this is like some weird, we're seeing what happens if someone, like, my brain's going, what if Ahsoka has died and this is like the transition to Force Ghost?
This is...
And I'm like...
The world between worlds is the Force Ghost training area.
And then, obviously, I had the subtitles on and you see, hey, Snips, and I'm like, wait, Anakin's here? No, at first I thought, oh, she's hearing Anakin's voice.
Which makes sense because, you know, you get the mirrors to the past, present, and the future. I thought we were going to get like a flashback.
And then she turns around. Anakin looked a little weird. He's obviously
The de-aging was
de-aged.
not phenomenal.
I also think it's on purpose. He looked ghostly. He was very bluey tinge.
The year we've had with visual effects, I'm not willing to give anything that doesn't look right pass on its potential.
I have more theories.
Go on. Lay them on me, big boy.
So, obviously, Anakin stood there, Hayden Christian. Everyone's like, oh my god, fucking... It's very cool. One, why the fuck is he pulling her in? How the fuck is, like, all those questions.
What's pulling Ahsoka in?
I was, like, looking online and different things of what people have been saying. Things that people have noticed. His lightsaber is pretty much all black. Anakin didn't have an all black lightsaber at that point. It was like pretty much all chrome.
Yeah,
all black
because the lightsabers were inverted versions of each other. His Jedi one was silver with the black bits, and then the other one was basically all black with the silver accent.
Which exactly looks like it's Darth Vader's lightsaber.
And then we get the Darth Vader theme
at the end. He's looking very ghostly. I don't think this is actually Anakin. I think this is a trick. We know Palpatine knew a way to look into the world between worlds. How do we know he didn't teach Vader that?
Are you saying Palpatine's return somehow?
How did he not teach Vader that somehow? Also, this is like gonna grill your Clone Wars memory.
Okay, I'm in.
The father, the son, and the daughter.
Yeah.
That weird mysticism shit that Anakin and Ahsoka went through. The daughter gave up her life into Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So the daughter lives on in Ahsoka.
Which has never again been spoken about, which is really weird.
The only time we've seen it again was in Rebels, when she arrived in the world between worlds, the daughter's owl appeared and was there in the world between worlds. I think that owl's going to appear again. That same time, we saw Anakin connected with the sun, which is when people think that's his first realization of like his connection to the dark side. The theory is the sun also then sort of lives on in Anakin.
Okay.
What if this isn't Anakin? What if this is the sun?
And he's taken the form of Anakin.
And the sun had that blade that was like, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like the blade of destruction or something. What if that lightsaber is just like, what if this is the sun trying to trick? There's some weird shit going on. I don't think this is just Anakin. Would
you like a fun, theoretical, other alternative option?
Okay.
I'd like you to cast your mind back to episode 5 of Star Wars, the second film. When it's episode 5. I was checking then. Luke is training on Dagobah.
Yeah.
And he goes into what for a long time was seen as one of the worst scenes in Star Wars history, where the entire pacing of the film goes to shit for a weird scene where he fights Darth Vader and the mask falls apart to see Luke. Now, as lore has been added, this scene does make more sense. We know because of where Dagobah is and it has insane force intensity there. It was showing Luke his worst fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the moment where we can say Luke became a full Jedi because he conquered his worst fear and the Force challenged him. Then we have a similar scene with Rey.
Yeah.
What if this is Ahsoka's? But Ahsoka's worst fear isn't that she is evil. It's that she couldn't save Anakin from becoming evil.
I would... See, this is where I'm like, possibly... But she's already in a way faced that when she faced...
She's accepted it, but she
true.
Faced it.
We don't know if she's really accepted it. She probably does still blame herself. And she carries that.
I'm not saying I necessarily believe that, but I think there's definitely history in Star Wars
of
like, you've got to face your worst fear. And like, she can just go, well, it's too late, I'll never know. I'm not responsible for what he did as Vader. But if she's faced with the opportunity of, she thinks this is Anakin before she left, can she stop him being Darth Vader? Like, that is definitely going to be a potential way to go. I do think it's more likely fuckery from an external source. If we get to see live action Vader versus Ahsoka, I'm so down.
If we get we got Obi-Wan, if we got the Ahsoka, but also in the world of like, if it is the son, say, and this is all some visual trickery.
Who's the father?
No. What if Sam Witwer was to play the son?
Ah.
That would be a very cool casting.
It would. It would. It would explain his involvement with the project that he refuses to speak about.
That, and also people have figured out the voice. You know, in that first episode, everyone's like, he's in voice credits.
Yeah.
If you listen to when Ahsoka first finds the orb, you can hear his voice.
Is it him as Maul, or is it him as like...
people say it sounds like him as Maul.
Got ya.
So people are like, okay, that's why he's got credits.
Oh my god, what if... Okay, sorry, I'm just going to ride my theory because I came up with it. What if she like has to fight her worst fears, and like the battle with Maul on Mandalore's like a big battle for her, trying to save Anakin, and like the next episode is just a gauntlet of her fighting her worst moments again?
Imagine.
What if we get a live action fucking version of her having to fight off the clones? Just like her going back through like her worst fucking moments.
Or she sees them through like the visions. I don't know why this is. You mentioned in Mandalore then. We find out that Sabine's parents died and her family's dead. Like that was like, oh shit, okay. Clearly died in the
Siege
whole
of Mandalore.
Yeah, this whole bombing and everything.
Not Siege of Mandalore, the Purge of Mandalore.
Purge. So I have
Siege is the end of fucking the Clone Wars.
Obviously, to start wrapping things up, the jumps happened. The map's destroyed.
Yeah.
The only two means that I can think of getting to there without having to wait for them to come back, obviously. Phoenix Squad gets together, including Zeb and everybody, and they ride the Purgles. Like they connect up to them somehow through Force, or like the Purgles are like, oh, we remember you guys, you're cool. And they fucking blip after them with the Purgles. I think that could be very cool. I think after seeing like how like visually that looked when they took the ship, imagine getting to see that in live action with them all glowing and then they fucking hyper jump. That looks sick. I have a fear of how Ahsoka might get there.
Okay.
She's in the world between worlds. We know that jumps time. We also know that means you can move between places anywhere. What if she can see... Like, what if she can see a window where they arrive, and to save Ezra from Thrawn, she pulls him through? Or she, like, hops out of one of these windows, and it's where they jump to, and that's how she chases after them.
You almost said TP.
I did almost say TP. Oh, video game logic.
Yeah. It's like, there's so many different ways it can go, and I've never been more curious to see which way they're going to choose.
Yeah, I think the Vader theme music at the end leans into my theory that this isn't just Anakin, this is some trickery.
Mm-hmm.
Considering as well, like a lot of the times we see Sith do trickery, it's like blue flame stuff and all this like blue theme. I'm like, I worry.
No, Filoni is an absolute slut for imagery.
I worry about Sabine, considering the title sequence a few times has shown her helmet with a red light on it.
Yeah.
And she just gave in. I'm hoping that's what it was hinting to, just her giving in.
Yeah.
I think next episode we get the Thrawn reveal.
I hope so. I like the idea of Thrawn being involved in 4 episodes, bearing in mind we've heard about him every single episode.
I think this next episode is that scene from the trailer of him walking onto the ship. Like he's on the cockpit area of that golden
the
ship.
ring.
I think we get that. I don't think we find out where Ezra is.
I think we never find out where Ezra is. I think Ezra be dead.
No.
I don't see how we can have a world where both Ezra and Thrawn survive that.
I have a theory And I actually, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I like your theory of Ezra being like old monk. But he might
I'm a
not,
big fan of the
like,
old monk.
even if he doesn't, not necessarily even he's older, because I can imagine a thing with like, I imagine a world where they jumped, and in that he was able to find another way into the world between worlds, because it's quite clearly like Ahsoka, like it can just happen. It doesn't need some
Yeah.
portal on a wall.
It doesn't have to be a portal.
What if like they got to where they're going, and obviously like the Purgles will probably dissipate. Thrawn's alive. Ezra has to escape. He just disappears into the world between worlds. I see a way where it's like Ahsoka fights off all these demons, and then Ezra's just sat there.
I'm really curious to know, not in the sense of to the characters, but in the sense of to the Force, why Ezra Bridger is so important. Because think about it. All of these mega powerful, mega intelligent Jedis, and in 4 years, while he was still training and starting to understand stuff, he was doing stuff that none of them could imagine. And I get, like, originally you can go, well, yeah, it was designed for kids, it needed to be exciting. But Dave Filoni don't operate like that.
No.
There has got to be, even if there wasn't initially, he will have made sure there is a better reason.
He's always big picture.
Why always Ezra? And I'm really, really curious to see what that ends up being.
I think
he is the father.
No.
Old monk Ezra, and he's the father to the son and the daughter.
I wonder if there's always like, we know he was there was a like quite clearly a strong force connection with him and Lothal and the Loth Wolves and all that, and he was able to, he had a connection with that, like it was the father, the daughter, the son that opened the portal. There is some weird connection there going on, which 100%. Is why I like now I'm thinking about it, I like the idea that like maybe he did escape into the world between worlds. At that point, he already understood that like he can't mess with what's going on, and this idea like he's come to peace, but like he now has taken on himself to protect that place from the likes of Vader or like Palpatine trying to get in there and use it as an evil force. That's why he won't, and I don't think he'll leave it. That's why Ezra's never returned, because he's now like taken on this thing of, he's the Sentinel. He's the guy guarding the Holy Grail. I protect this. Also gives Dave Filoni a very solid reason why it can't be used all the time, because look, it's not allowed. Ezra won't allow it. It's going to be interesting. Going to be very interesting. And I'm very excited. I think it'd also be fair to say that you wouldn't necessarily age in the world between worlds. Yes, exactly. Because it's outside of time and space. Well, so I think it's the center of the Force in a way. Yeah, if Ahsoka is there and he comes and fucking saves her from that weird Force ghost thing, and he's like talking proper weird but still looks like a child, he's like, it's been 10,000 years. Yeah, it would just be like, ignore how I look. I am way more powerful than I once was. But it's gonna be a ride to see how this closes out. Imagine that is what Ezra's like, and he now speaks like Yoda. And it's only people it would be deeply connected. It would be the most Filoni thing ever to be like, so Yoda was Ezra Bridger the whole time. No, it's just like, you've got people so deeply connected no longer speak normally. It's just like, protector of the realm I am. I do, yeah. How this closes out, I'm very intrigued. I'm going to say it now. I will be very angry if we get to episode 9 and I go, the pacing wasn't right. Because they have set themselves up beautifully for the pacing to not be a problem. It's only going to be a problem if they make it a problem. I think the pacing is going to be okay. Because so far it's proven it has. I think the next episode we will get the Thrawn reveal. Then we're going to get some like build up to Thrawn returning. and them having to deal with that. Meanwhile, also trying to like maybe have to give up on the idea of Ezra if he's not actually there, or what's going on there. You're gonna have Phoenix Squadron now probably scrambling to be like, holy shit, Thrawn's coming back. We've got to be ready for this. I think I hope I'd be so happy if this ends with like Vader, Thrawn, Ahsoka fight, like some weird, like big, huge fight, and Vader comes in and it's just like, oh shit, they've got to face up again. That would be very cool. Can it be Wednesday? I just want the next episode.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to watch it while I'm on holiday because I'm not waiting.
Why do I feel like
Uh-oh.
next episode is going to feel like a letdown because it's not going to give us as many answers as we want?
It won't. I think the only things that are going to happen is we get Thrawn revealed and we get whatever's going to happen with Ahsoka and Anakin, and we get a bit of an answer there, maybe.
Okay, counterpoint for you. Based on the numerous amount of Disney Plus shows we've watched, would it not be very the way they do stuff for the next episode not to feature anything from where they jump to or anything in the world between worlds, and it will be focused on Phoenix Squadron trying to work out what the fuck's happened?
I don't.
They have no information.
True.
I could see that happening.
I don't think they can not at least touch on the Ahsoka stuff. Maybe we get Phoenix Squadron trying to figure out, meanwhile, Ahsoka's lost in the world between worlds.
Apparently it is a longer episode again next week. So
yes, I think it's like 54 minutes again. So it has the potential to answer a few questions. Maybe this is the show where they finally figure out the formula.
Maybe. Are you ready to put your casting director hat on?
I am. I'll send you my rate. We'll send DCR rate after this.
So we've discussed doing this potentially about a number of different characters. We missed the boat on Superman.
We did.
We'll get around to doing some others at some other time. But bearing in mind that there's a freeze on casting at the minute because of SAG-AFTRA strikes, it also means that nothing's moving. So it gives us a bit of time to actually think about who we think do a good job.
This is true.
I'm going to be honest. I've gone rogue with my picks for Batman. I'm talking so rogue that you might have to Google these people.
Oh god, okay, I'll get rid. I probably will, even if you hadn't gone rogue. I'll be honest. I'm so bad with names and faces.
So I've gone with 3 selections. I'm not going to say who they are yet. But I've gone one to be like an older style Batman, someone who I look at and I can imagine they already have a 10-year-old son like Damian.
Okay.
As well as already having gone 2 or 3 Robins, who could then be like 10. Dick Grayson started when he was like 10 years old. Say he's like 18 now. This needs to be like, he needs to have been Batman for 8 years at least, kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So I've gone for someone who I can believe is Batman for at least a decade.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to be honest. I have not seen this man in anything.
Oh.
This one is based off the vibe I get from him and the way his acting is spoken about on IMDb and the kind of way he approaches roles. Because I was really struggling to find someone the right age. So if anyone can find someone who looks like this Don and definitely has the acting skills, we are on to a moneymaker.
I'm ready.
And I say this in the least offensive way possible because he's not an old man, but my old Batman casting, bearing in mind you want this person to be able to do the job for like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Is Luke Bracey, an Australian actor. He made a lot of his money or got his rise through Home and Away. He's since been in G.I. Joe films. He's been in the Elvis film. He did a remake of Point Break, which I'm sure is terrible. But I look at him and I'm like, I could see him as Bruce Wayne. Yeah,
Yeah.
you might have to darken up the hair a little bit, but if you scroll down, there are some pictures where he's not as blonde.
Yeah.
So I don't think like you could
Well, hair
darken the
colour's
hair a
all
little
right,
bit. Yeah. But I could see him being Bruce Wayne. This is the brilliant bit about trying to work out actors to play Bruce Wayne. It's very easy to find a picture of them in a suit.
Yes. Okay, so I've done similar. I essentially sort of have 4, because my younger one, I have a couple of like variations of how young, sort of middle.
Yeah.
But my older one, I also did an older, and I have like an interesting one. So my older one, I've gone Tom Ellis. Now you'll know Tom
I don't
Ellis
hate that.
from Lucifer.
I don't know him from Lucifer.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna out my girlfriend here.
Oh,
I know her from Miranda,
okay.
the British comedy
Yeah.
show where he plays the love
Yeah.
interest, because she's a big fan of that show and she's watched it a number of times. And like when it's on in the background, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm like, oh, turn that off. I enjoy it; it's quite funny. But that is actually when I think of Tom Ellis, that's what I think of him from.
So I know him mainly from watching Lucifer, and I could see him very much as a Bruce Wayne. And I could see him like I think he's in his 40s now. So he's definitely on the upper. Like, if you think that my worry would be like, obviously, like you say, this is someone that's going to have to do this role for like a good 10, 15 years.
When I was Googling this role,
Yeah.
and like the kind of actors I was looking for, I realized how much money keeps you looking young.
Yeah. Yep. Money and good genetics.
Because everyone I thought was going to be in my kind of age range is like 5 to 10 years older.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
So I was like, oh shit, I need to look 10 years younger than the people I thought I was casting here.
But yeah, so I've got Tom Ellis. I thought I think he has appeared in the Flash CW once.
Yes, he has.
And I know he has an interest in wanting to be in a superhero or into the world of superhero content. So,
are you ready to laugh? Sorry, I googled Tom Ellis just to make sure, see if there was anything else he was in.
Okay.
That I would know of. And the top related questions. Why does Tom Ellis have a British accent?
Oh my god, yes, I see
British.
But you click on the thing and it's like, Thomas was born in Wales. That's why.
It's fucking hilarious,
honestly.
Man. So my young Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
Batman. Now, people are going to need to are going to need to Google this, even if they know the actor, because they need to get the image they're going to have of this person out of their mind.
Okay.
I've gone for Nolan Gould. Gould.
Yeah.
He played Luke on Modern Family.
Oh my god, he did.
But if you look at him now, there's a picture from his Instagram that I think gives the energy I'm looking for perfectly, where he's sat in front of his doorstep with a hiking sack.
Yes, I see it.
He's got the curly hair and a beard. That looks, granted, a bit happier, but that looks like Bruce Wayne coming back from learning how to be Batman.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's 24 years old. He is incredibly intelligent. He's a very, very good actor. He's in great shape. He could play Batman for 20 years.
Yeah.
He is a Mensa genius based on his IQ. He's in phenomenal shape. He could definitely play Bruce Wayne.
Okay. Yeah, no, I could see that.
I told you it was a rogue shout, and people need to not think Luke Dumfries. They need to go look what he looks like now. Because this guy is ready to be a superhero. And
so
I think he could do Batman really well.
I have young, but I have kind of like a young and then kind of a medium, because they were on kind of, you can't really class them as young. But so I'll go with the medium one.
Okay.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I've been burnt by him too many times. How old is he these days?
He's 33.
Okay.
So it's like he's kind of feels weird to say young when we're talking like 20s. But he could do a good
I just refuse to cast him in another superhero project until I've seen Craven.
Fair. Obviously we've got Craven coming out, which might burn things. But it's like if you
he's also done a lot of work with Marvel at this point.
But that's like I kind of like the idea, but I didn't know where to fit him.
It's 100%. He's got the vibe.
My actual young pick, you're gonna look at it and go, not sure that looks like a Batman. But you've got to think.
I'm sure they get them on that DC cocktail, they'll be fine.
There's that, but there's also like you've got to think young Bruce Wayne who's like is only just becoming Batman and trying to get out of like just being the spoiled rich boy.
Okay.
Charlie Heaton. People will know him from Stranger Things.
As someone who's not watched Stranger Things, I won't. Is he not quite old?
He's only in his 20s. I forget exactly.
He looks, no offense, like he's seen better days for 29 years old. I mean, you're 45 for fuck's sake.
But like, I can on some of the things when he's in a suit and he's got like a proper deadpan stare, I can see him as a bit more like hates the world, like rich boy.
Yeah.
And buff him up a bit, he could have that like facial expression.
I'm looking at these pictures of him, and he's definitely exuding the right energy. It's 100%. Obviously, he can put on muscle. Everyone can put on muscle. Would the muscle make him look weird? I don't think it would. I don't like the idea of Batman being fucking jacked to the nines anyway. He needs to be athletic, so he needs to be. He needs to, what the guys do is what's it called, calisthenics, where they're just shredded, but like still a medium size. I think he could pull off that build.
Yeah, and but especially for like,
he needs to put on a bit of timber. Yeah, he's a slender guy.
But I remembered him from that like the very deadpan stare, which gives me very. I'm done with Gotham.
You can see him crouching on top of a like fucking building, going, "I am the knight."
Yeah, and also just being like pissed off with everybody.
Yeah, no, I actually quite like that casting, 100%.
What's your out of the box?
So, I'll be honest. I was searching, and I had this guy in mind, and then I saw how old he was, and I was like, if I'm thinking he needs to do this for 15 years, it probably rules him out because he's like 43 years old.
Yeah.
Again, he's got the slightly wrong hair color. He is blonde-ish, but it's a dirty blonde. Very easy to make it brown. Charlie Hunnam. From Sons of Anarchy, Dream Street, The Gentleman.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very good actor. I could absolutely see him as Bruce Wayne.
I don't think his age will matter. He's the sort of person that would be able to stay.
Put it this way. He was one of the first people that when I saw he was 43, I was like, wow, money really does keep you looking young.
I could see Charlie Hunnam as a Batman.
Put it this way. If they make him Batman and they say he's 43, that means Batman's probably been doing it for...
Yeah.
I mean, you can make Batman even a bit older so he had longer training. Say he's been doing it for 18 years since he was 25. Went off to start training at 18, trained for 7 years, came back at 25. You could have Damien be like 13, 14 years old to open your casting options for Damien. And he could definitely do the role for at least 10 years. He could make 15 probably work.
Yeah. So my out the box is also quite old. My out the box is 45 years old.
Okay.
Now, I'm just going to bring into the realm here of decision making of the fact that James Gunn said he wants this person to also voice act all the animated stuff, anything in video games. This person's very good at all that stuff. Someone who we've actually already talked about today.
I fucking knew it.
Sam Witwer.
When you said voice acting as well, I was like, I can see where this
Sam Witwer. Like,
just to go back to our point on like people who are early 40s. RDJ was 43 when he was cast as Iron Man.
Oh, well then. Right. Hollywood can make it work.
Don't get me wrong, I do think you have to stay in slightly better shape for Batman. But
Yeah.
it's still definitely possible.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's Sam Witwer.
I have seen Sam Witwer before. I just need to refresh my. I love Sam Witwer. He's a brilliant voice actor. When I look at his face, I see villain.
I get you.
He's got what can only be described as a shit-eating grin.
I know what you mean. I think
he's definitely got the right energy. He's pretty boy enough that people could believe that, like, oh well, of course Bruce Wayne isn't Batman. Look at that face. He's far too. He's never got his nails dirty.
Yeah, I think he'd look good in the cowl as well.
When you do consider everything, I would be really curious because I assume every voice actor has got a Batman voice locked up just in case.
Oh yeah.
He also looks great for 45. Money does wonders.
This is what we've realized. We like screw who we decide actually is Batman. We just know that money buys looks now.
Yeah, 100%. I could see Sam Witwer for sure.
Definitely a bit more out of the box as he's older and
100%.
But we've got a range there.
I think my personal favourite out of all of our decisions is still Nolan Gould. He's so young that he can do it forever. He is crazy smart like Batman is, which just, I don't know why, having an actor who has a trait the same as the character they've been cast as always helps to sell it. They're like, well, Batman's a genius and he's an actual genius.
Yeah.
He's in great shape. And I don't know why. I think it'd be nice to see a Batman with like a naturally curly hair.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It just gives me that vibe. But at the same time, going all the way up to like your Sam Witwer and Charlie Hunnam, who we're like, that is like the top of the age we're looking at. They're both about
Tom Ellis
RDJ's age.
In his 40s as well.
Yeah. They're like RDJ's age when he was cast as Iron Man. So it's definitely possible that any of them guys could do it for 10, 12 years.
I think for mine, it's like I like the idea of either Tom Ellis or so I could see Sam Witwer being more of like he's been around the block and he's not got the patience that like you say, he's got a face more of a villain. So maybe he's a bit of an less patience, older sort of vibe.
You know who Sam Witwer would be brilliant for?
Go on.
Hush. Batman villain. Hush. He's a cosmetic surgeon who hates the Wayne family.
Interesting.
He's got the voice for it. And definitely could have some fun with it.
Okay.
Granted, he's basically always in bandages because he's always changing his appearance. But in a film where you're going to have like maybe some detective work for it, you might need him blending into a crowd. So you could just have Sam Witwer be like an extra in a scene. And if everyone knows that he's the voice actor, they'll be like, oh, he was there.
Yeah. I get you, yeah.
Like what they did with in Mysterio in Far From Home.
Yeah.
They are our castings for the Batman.
Yeah, I think once we, obviously, like until we get more details on around what the Batman film is going to be, because obviously we've had a lot on the Superman at the moment. Like when we start getting more, we may be able to place age-wise better.
100%. The only thing I will say is for our young castings, they're probably a bit screwed because the bit of information we do have is that it's being based off The Brave and the Bold, where Damian was the Robin, which means it needs to be a slightly older Batman for it to make sense that he has a child.
There's a chance maybe the younger ones play Robin.
What, Damian?
Oh, yeah. Well, I suppose they'll be too... they're probably getting too... You'd have to have then Batman be even older.
Well, there's that, but there's also the fact that Damian kind of needs to be Middle Eastern.
True.
Like, Damian is famously Middle Eastern. Like, And I mean, they're definitely probably too old at that point, especially Tom Heaton at 29.
Yeah.
I could see him playing a brilliant Dick Grayson.
If he rocks up and is about.
Yeah. But yeah, Damien's got to be
True.
Middle Eastern descent. So that, you know, it makes sense. Would you like to move on to a little SAG-AFTRA update in regards to how they are fucking people who fucked with them for too long?
Sure, let's get into it.
Right. So first and foremost, I accidentally didn't put it in this bit, but it is included in this.
Okay.
They are now agreeing to strike video game publishers. Video gamers, beware. The people done been fucking with them for too long, and they've gone, that's it, you're banned as well. That means Insomniac, Activision, EA, Warner Bros, Disney. I think I'm forgetting someone. It doesn't matter though. They're all on the do not voice act for list. Voice actors for a long time have got the raw end of the stick.
Yeah.
Because they're not as protected by SAG-AFTRA because of the nature of the work not being you have to be at a physical location all the time.
Yeah.
But they've kind of gone, fuck it, we're fighting for fairness. We're going to go all in. These guys are trying to be arseholes about it, so we're going to hit them on more fronts.
Yeah.
So yeah, to my knowledge, that's not expected to delay any games that are expected in the next 3 to 4 months. I'm looking at you weird Spider-Man fans who are getting angry on Twitter. Although I kind of wish it was being delayed just because of your reaction. But anything that's like in that stage of development is going to potentially be delayed. The thing with voice acting for video games is the game is always going to take longer than the voice acting.
Yes.
So there is a chance if they get this wrapped up reasonably quickly that it won't actually cause any delays on games.
Potentially, yeah.
But if they don't wrap it up quickly, it could cause delays more expensive than I think a film production would ever experience. If you spend 4 years and 300 million making a game and now you can't release it because of voice acting problems, that's going to hurt a studio, a video game studio, a lot more than a film not being able to do anything is going to hurt a film studio.
And you know what? These voice actors are obviously trying to get their fair deal because they're not happy with the studios. Do you know who hates studios more? The gamers themselves.
Yeah.
We hate these publishers because they're
just scum in general.
Yeah, and they often push out scummy money-making ways and unfinished content, forcing devs to release like unfinished games. So it's like, yeah, stick it to them. If it means your game's delayed, like the gamers are gonna be the ones on social media shouting at the likes of like Activision and EA to be like, pay your fucking voice actors so we can have our game.
This is when we need the developers to all unionize and go on strike until they stop getting made to crunch. The day that developers unionize to stop crunching and to stop deadlines being moved forward without developer approval is the day gaming goes from meh to maybe great, to great to maybe phenomenal.
The day we get devs like Larian Studio who are more independent and don't rely on the likes of like EA, Activision, Ubisoft, that's when games get better because they will actually have full control and be like, yeah, no, we're doing this properly. This is the standard.
Exactly. The most profitable single media installment ever is still GTA 5.
It's been milking that money.
and GTA 6 is going to blow it out of the fucking water. I don't think it'll even take long. Maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, my worry with GTA 6 is it's been so long coming.
People are going to hate it.
It's going to get so much hate, but it's still going to make bank.
100%. You're going to get basically everyone who has a console of any description or anything that can play a game buying it instantly, and half of them never liked GTA in the first place, so they're going to hate it. And everyone else is going to go, we've waited for 12 years and it's no better than other games that are out right now. It's like, well, look at the story and what they've built. They're not trying to, like, Starfield's taken 25 years. Let's put some scope on things. Anyway, before we get sidetracked. And the other prong of the SAG-AFTRA mallet, MCU Disney Plus shows that have been affected by strikes and their updated release dates / expected times.
Yes.
So, Loki Season 2 is coming October 6th. We know that is locked in. I don't believe there's any chance that that's going to get changed.
No, it's done and dusted.
But that was supposed to be earlier. So it did get minorly affected.
It did.
But I think that was actually affected due to they want to, instead of 6 months when nothing happens at the end, they want to push everything back by a month so that you don't notice the gaps. They were
definitely spreading their content more when those changes happened.
What If Season 2 is expected to drop around Christmas. There are rumblings on the internet whether it will be the 21st or the 23rd of December.
Okay, interesting.
Echo, which was also supposed to come out this autumn, now won't be coming out till at the earliest January 2024. Remember, there is still room for more delays on all of these ones that don't have set in stone dates. X-Men 97 is expected early 2024 now.
Okay.
So that normally means Q1, which would be kind of like February to April time. Again, could very well be delayed.
It could.
Agatha, whatever that show ends up being called, that Agatha project is expected late 2024.
So probably Q3, Q4.
Yeah. Ironheart, which was a show, is now supposed to be a film, but might be a show again, has been delayed indefinitely. They haven't got enough done to work out how much is left once they can work again. Wonder Man is in the same boat.
Yeah.
And Daredevil Born Again is in the same boat.
That one hurts the most.
I would just like to remind people that San Diego Comic-Con, not this year, last year.
Yes.
Late 2024 was supposed to be Fantastic Four. Or am I tripping?
I think it was. They were meant to have started, because they were meant to start production the start of this year. Like the original rumor was production will begin January 2023.
We still don't even have a cast for that.
Yeah, exactly. That's got pushed way back now.
It's already been pushed back officially to May 2nd, 2025.
There you go.
Which I believe was when the Avengers Secret War was supposed to be. No, Kang Dynasty's for Secret War. So when Kang Dynasty was supposed to be. And that's already been pushed back. It's going to be a fucking mess. And the problem is, it's not like when people go, we just want more time to make sure we're doing it right. It's not like they've gone, we hear your concerns about the quality recently, so we're going to slow stuff down and make sure we're doing it right. They're going to rush it out, and it might actually end up being worse because they're going to hold out for too long on these deals before paying the people what they fairly deserve to be paid, and then they're going to try and rush them to hit these deadlines.
Yeah, I worry that they'll get, when things are agreed on, there'll be another delay of okay, we can start working out, so it's going to be, and they'll push it back, but it won't be actually pushed back far enough. It'll be pushed back a little to give them a little room to be look, okay, we can play off a bit of a delay because of things going on, but they're no, you need to crunch and get this done because we need this out now. We've not been making money for several months now.
It's
going to be interesting. It also, for better or worse, the MCU delays is actually probably going to end up meaning that we have a very big, DCU is going to get started. When we thought MCU was going to be well into the next phase, and obviously all the attention probably building up again on it. DCU's actually like, MCU's in struggle. DCU's gonna be like, hi, we're new, we're back, we're fresh. Here's Superman, and here's the next.
Yeah.
Like,
as long as DC don't also try to rush out. If they go, it takes as long as it takes. This is our big debut. Not a problem.
Yeah.
That they have a really good opportunity here.
Yep, they really do.
And it'll be interesting to see if they can capitalize on it or not. On to some Nerd News Network.
Yes. Nerdy news.
All of the Nerd News Network under my new filing system is in the same file, so I have to scroll down to the correct episode to get the nerdy news for the week. Special on Disney Plus is coming today as you guys are listening to this. It might already be out. Go watch it after you're finished list. Called Master and Apprentice.
Yeah, this is like come out of nowhere.
Which is coming 2 days after that shocking end to Ahsoka, which we spoke about earlier, but we won't say anything now, just in case you skipped that bit to avoid spoilers. But if you've watched this week's episode of Ahsoka, you probably know what that's about. It's probably worth going to watch it. I'm sure we'll both watch it.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be discussed when Hori's back from his holiday.
It will.
But maybe go have a look. I know I will be. I'm probably watching it right now as you guys are listening to this. How weird is that?
No, you'll be at work. Oh, no, you're not at work.
No, I'll be streaming.
Yeah.
Doing my not a job. I take longer lunch breaks while I'm getting paid. And this was almost an entire segment by itself, and it might still be eventually, but not enough information's come out yet. So there have been a number of news articles who I assume have all been holding the trigger on this, waiting for the first person to pull it.
Yeah.
About how a PR firm has been manipulating Rotten Tomatoes scores by paying critics for favorable reviews.
Is anyone shocked?
Well, yes and no. So here's the thing. Rotten Tomatoes have actually been very good at stopping this shit normally. Here's the problem. Once you rate enough stuff and like your reviews aren't like, I don't want to say outlandish because it shouldn't be, you only get treated with respect as a reviewer by following the crowd. But as long as you're like not doing anything weird and like your reviews are like good reviews that make sense and they can hear it, after you do enough, you can get certified as a proper reviewer on there.
Yeah.
So what this then means is people can become like me and you if we wanted to sit down and catch up on every film we'd watched.
Yeah.
Or if we wanted to create a cutscene account and we would sit down and we would do them together, we could probably eventually become seated as a critic on there, which is obviously one of the two scores.
Yep.
Now, the problem is, because of the way this system works, less than reputable people have been able to create these accounts, and then a PR firm who has worked with a couple of different production companies has gone to these critics and paid them anywhere between $50 and $100 per review to boost scores, with one film getting boosted from 86% to 62%.
Do you mean that they were around?
Sorry, from 46% to 62%.
Oh, shit. Okay. Damn.
Yeah. That's a fucking problem. Because whether like you like the website or not, and I know people have their issues with it, which is completely fine, Rotten Tomatoes is seen as a genuine metric. I know a lot of people who are, if they're on the fence, if they want to see something, will go, I'm on the fence to this, but the audience scores like 95%. Clearly it's fun. Or I want to go see something, but that just seems like a dumb action film. Oh, the critic reviews are quite high. Apparently it has quite a lot of heart to it. I'll go see it. And it's a fucking problem. Like, it's huge. I mean, Rotten Tomatoes have claimed they've already discovered a lot of them and been able to rectify them, and they've banned the accounts responsible. But
doesn't stop
the real
it
question is, what are they going to do to stop it happening again? That is the exact problem. It's like, yeah, cool. You've worked it out. You've undone the harm.
The issue is the harm has been done, and it's like the perception now, as this comes out, the perception is going to be going forward that, oh, people get paid for reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
You just know with the way Twitter is, if there is a film that someone hates that's got like 92% on critics, they'll be like, well, who spent all the marketing budget on critic reviews?
Yeah.
Which is just bad for discourse in general about what's going on in different filming franchises. But it also means, like I said, can't trust the reviews anymore. Well, so are we just supposed to trust the audience review now? Which isn't foolproof because stuff gets review bombed all the time. This is
we being into video games a lot, like we know this happens with certain video game review we won't go into, but they are definitely very much persuaded by studios to give better reviews than, and people like don't respect those sites anymore. Like they'll look at their reviews, but they always take them with a pinch of salt because they know, oh, they were probably like paid by the studio. That's going to happen now with this.
You can look. Do you know what I use them reviews for? Which I like. You can be pretty confident are paid for. I look at them to go, okay, what are the selling points that the person, like the company, wants us to focus on? What do they think the best bits of their game are? But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think, although, like I said, Rotten Tomatoes isn't perfect, it has been a very good metric. And one of the only places where you can see both critics and audience scores right next to each other.
Yep.
And now you can't trust either. Review bombing on the fan side has got worse over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And now the critic scores, apparently, they can be bought and paid for. It's not ideal.
No, it's not. And once again, it's studios doing unfavorable things because we know it's the studios that are hiring these PR firms.
Yeah, they're hiring the PR firms. It's not the PR firm not doing it off their own back.
So.
And it sucks because like we've used Rotten Tomato scores before. Like when the critic scores come in before we've been able to go see the film yet because they're not properly out yet. And we're like, oh, that looks great. That's really high. And then we go and we're disappointed and we're like, but you said was good. Now are we just disconnected from what the critics are looking for? Or were they paid to write that?
Probably paid.
We don't even get paid to give our opinion as it is.
Yo, Warner Brothers, if you want to pay, I will say only good things about DC.
And Disney, if you want to pay, I'll say only bad things about DC. And there you go, chat. We are fair and balanced once again. Imagine me just catching checks for slandering them and you catching checks for defending them. Conor and Hori seem to be arguing a lot this week.
Right. Hori's really gone off Marvel and is really on the DC boat now.
I could have sworn Conor said he preferred DC comics that long ago. More just people with too much money being scumbags. Dozens of past and present Disney execs believe Bob Iger is just trying to last long enough as Disney CEO to sell to Apple. Now, we discussed this not that long ago.
We did.
How there was a rumor about that. And we sat here and we went, how? In a world where the drama around can Microsoft buy Activision is still ongoing, can Apple, one of $2 trillion companies, be allowed to buy a company that has so much media market share that, in all honesty, it probably shouldn't have been able to buy Fox, let alone be sold to a company that already has a better media market share.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, wake the fuck up. We have made, like, how many video games, how many films, how many books, how many TV shows have been made about dystopian futures where there's like 3 mega corporations that run the universe?
Yep.
If we as the people of the world let Disney, as it is currently, not broken down, even though breaking it down would still be terrifying, as it is, get sold to Apple, free thought is gone.
Yeah. Our world's slowly turning into 4 corporations.
Yeah.
Amazon,
Microsoft,
Apple and
Tencent.
Oh, I was going to say like Elon Musk.
No, Elon Musk will get assassinated.
Jeez. No, I think he's going to try and build like some megacorp through Twitter. Oh, sorry, through
Yeah, he
X.
absolutely wants to. Yeah. No, it's Twitter. Don't give him any respect by calling it X. When he can learn to respect trans people's
Sorry,
pronouns,
no,
we will call his website what he wants it to be called.
it's called now. Because did you see about him trying to take the Twitter sign down at the office?
No.
So this is a sidetrack, but
Yeah.
scummy CEOs. At the, I can't remember which, I think it might have been the San Francisco office. He wanted to take the Twitter sign down, obviously, because it's changed its name, and it's on like the corner of the building. He just got like a scissor lift guy and someone to, but then obviously like a crowd started forming because people were like, what the fuck
going on?
Yeah. Police ended up having to come because it was causing a disruption. And it turns out like they didn't have the right like bits of paperwork to be allowed to be on the street side with a scissor lift and take. So they'd got off like Twit on one side and then it got shut down and they haven't been back. So one side at the corner says Twitter, the other side just says
Twitter.
So it's just like, what have you done to Twitter?
But yeah, I don't understand how.
With this Disney thing, also to point out, like, this is Disney execs. This isn't just staff members saying this.
This is people who are privy to that kind of information.
Yeah. And it makes sense as to why, like, Bob Iger was going to quit, and then, oh, no, he hasn't. And then he's come back, and he said he's leaving, but no, he's like...
And just so you, like, for the people who might not be aware or understand, as a general rule of thumb, a CEO who oversees a big merger gets a fuck ton of money. Yeah.
Because they essentially, like, their percentage... the way mergers, or, like, if they sell to a company, it's usually because they're selling a majority share, which means everyone's shares get... either a chunk of their shares get taken off them, and things are diluted down, and essentially they lose a portion, and they do that by like, Apple's giving you this chunk of money for your your little bit of percentage. So it's like, him being the CEO, like he's gonna make bank.
A lot of his bonus and stuff will be paid as shares. So what his job will be Apple will come in, and what they'll do is, say Disney's trading at $92 a share right now. I don't know what it is. It's somewhere around there normally. And Apple go, we will give you $100 a share. Or they might even lowball them slightly because it's a lump sum all right now guaranteed.
Yeah.
And they say $80 a share. What he'll then do is present it to the shareholders who have voting rights. So they're the ones that actually matter. And they will vote on whether they think that money is good enough. If they say yes, they then agree to go through all that paperwork and merge companies, and then they get paid that money from Apple. Because Apple is essentially buying their shares, but instead of buying them individually, which would be a hostile takeover, doing it secretly under the table, they are making them an offer as a collective and going, you will get $80 for every share you own. And Dick Cheney, I don't know why I said Dick Cheney because that's a real person. I doubt he has shares in Disney. Dick, someone down the road, who's been given 100,000 shares from when it was 1 cent a share back in 1933, is going to go fucking sweet, and they're going to get 10,000 times $80.
Yeah.
Probably even more, and they're going to fucking laugh all the way to the bank. And Bob Iger, like I said, he'll have shares as a result of that, but he'll also get a bonus because there's basically in every CEO contract they get a bonus written in for overseeing big business, and that's big business.
Yeah,
it's the same reason Bobby Kotick, the CEO of Activision, another scummy CEO. Are we seeing a trend? He's basically he needs to leave Activision. He's a piece of shit. He shouldn't even still be there. He got permission to stay as the CEO until this Microsoft acquisition was done, at which point he would leave. He would get paid out the rest of his contract. He's going to earn, just from his contract being bought out, for getting the shares he probably has, $200 million. He should be in prison.
That's the things as well people need to know is like the CEOs stay in for the purchase, knowing that they're not going to have, like, it's very rare that a CEO is ever kept on after a merger because the new company wants to put in their own leadership and management to run it. Most CEOs know this. And what often happens is they're essentially made redundant and given a fat lump sum and said, cheers for that, cheers for the company, here's your money, see you later. And the CEO goes, thanks, now I'm going to just go retire.
We've been saying every week for fuck knows how long now about how Bob Iger's being a scumbag over people who are struggling to feed themselves. Well, he earns $26.5 billion a year. If this merger was to go through, he'd probably get paid off like $250 million in one go, if not more.
The only the thing at the moment with the strikes is it's probably hurting those chances of it getting sold.
Because I don't think it's physically possible. Surely the FCC and the European Commission and every commission on planet Earth goes, you're fucking not.
You would think so, but I know Apple would try and spin it as, well, we're only in the phone and iPad market. Apple TV is like a drop. We don't have that much media influence.
Honestly, if Apple TV randomly gets announced it's being discontinued, that's when I'll get worried.
Yeah, fair.
Because that will be the first sign that they're going, we need to step out of this market.
Yeah.
So, because if that company exists in that market, okay, this is fine. But it can't happen without Disney selling Marvel and selling Star Wars at least.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. If Apple shuts down Apple TV, or like we can see their kind of like shows are getting cancelled and like winding down for some reason, and then suddenly Disney's selling off chunks of stuff that Disney owns, like rights, something's going on.
Yeah, 100%. And here's the problem. A lot of fans of franchises owned by Disney want them to sell. So they're like, oh, I wish Marvel would get sold by Disney. Marvel would be so much better without Disney. They don't understand the characters. And Star Wars fans have been the loudest for decades now. Oh, taking back to Star Wars before Disney. So if Disney announce we've sold Star Wars, fans are going to be like, yeah, not realizing how bad this could be in the grand scheme of the world.
Well, yeah.
Yes, you might be happy that your little space show's better. Guess what? You're going to be too busy working in Apple's mines looking for cobalt for their new iPhone 37.
Star Wars is just going to become a infomercial for how we're going to be living.
Yeah. Or you had fuckers complaining about the bricks in Andor. Wait until you see a motherfucker with an iPhone in Star Wars, yeah? I see now. Not that I care that much.
Not that we have an issue with any CEO.
It's terrifying how much shady business gets done and people don't notice, and they're just like, "Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure that's not a problem."
This is the world that we live in, unfortunately.
Content Championship time.
Content Championship.
Moon Knight, the Disney Plus show, versus Green Arrow, the CW show. As always, we have 6 categories.
Yes, we do.
Personal relevance. How well has it aged? Rewatchability. Story. Acting. And cinematography / general visual appeal. It's an interesting one this week. I feel like we've had a lot very similar to this, and they're all got their own little je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because it is, once again, it's one of these episodic designed to tell a story over 6, 8, 9 episodes versus villain of the week. And if you're lucky, there's a story.
Yep.
And I say that, granted, in a very negative way towards the villain of the week style, but for a long time, that's how all TV was. I mean, in a lot of places it still is. I mean, just look at like Criminal Minds and Bones and all of them shows that did 10, 11, 12 seasons of
all the CSIs
villain of the week. Yeah. But would you like to get started with your personal feelings towards each of these shows?
Yes. I'm going to start with Green Arrow. So
I thought you would.
I feel I'm trying to think back, but other than Smallville, which was like I didn't really watch all of it. I remember it being on TV and watching the odd episodes here and there. I would say that Green Arrow was the first superhero TV show that when I heard was like getting announced, and it was like, oh, we're gonna like cool DC character TV show. This is like the first, like, because Marvel was just kicking off, so there's this like bigger buzz around superhero stuff. And it was like I watched pretty much all of Green Arrow. I think actually till the end. I think I did watch all of Green Arrow through, maybe, or maybe like the last season or so. I dropped off it. I forget now. But like it was the first like TV show superhero one that like really hooked me in, and this like idea of connected worlds and stuff. It was very cool. At the like piqued the interest at the time. Moon Knight was a show we were both very excited for during our time doing this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Still a lot newer, obviously, than Green Arrow was.
Very much so.
But was one of the earlier Disney shows that I think we were both excited for the character, intrigued how they would do it, and was setting up, has its own, both have their own issues, but I think, personally, Green Arrow, I think, connects to me more, but Moon Knight also, because of the podcast and everything. I don't know how you feel about these.
So Moon Knight, we both went into very, very
hopeful.
Journey into the unknown. We didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
We knew bits about Moon Knight. Obviously, we did some character profiles leading up to it, but we left ourselves very open.
Yeah.
He's a cool character, is Moon Knight and Mark Spector, that we knew little about, and it was nice to see them get their own show. And overall, I was pretty happy with it. Whereas Green Arrow is a big part of like my nerd spiral towards superhero content.
Yeah.
It came up in like late 2010s.
Yeah.
Right around Avenger. I want to say Arrow season 1. What year was that?
Yeah,
Arrow
it was like as Marvel was like kicking up.
2012. It came out the same year as Avengers, the first season.
There you go.
So it was very much like, yeah, let's go. More superheroes, more awesome stuff. Oh, this one's a bit more brutal. Green Arrow in the Green Arrow show isn't as honourable to a comic book interpretation. They took a bit from Batman to make him more appealing because they know Batman's successful. Which I still to this day don't have an issue with, because I don't think the show would have worked or lasted as long as it did if they did it a different way.
Yeah.
But that is worth noting. And yeah, like I said, I watched the first 6 seasons religiously, started to fall off during the 7th, and then kind of gave up after that with the whole CW universe. But
yeah,
definitely a big part of that, just falling in love with superhero content.
Yeah. Agreed.
How well it has aged.
Ooh.
It's far too early to tell how well Moon Knight has aged.
Yeah.
What I will say, however, is I think out of the MCU shows, for better or worse, it doesn't stand out. And when, as a general rule, the Disney Plus MCU shows have been getting panned, maybe not standing out is a good thing.
Yeah, I do think back to it, and I'm like you say, it's too early really to say, but with how the pacing issues seemingly have got worse since then, like it was early signs of issues with pacing back in Moon Knight, and it's like you say, not being discussed as much and not standing out for better reasons or for worse, probably means it's going to age better, because people are then going to be, oh shit, yeah, Moon Knight was really actually quite good. So I think you're right in that. I feel like Green Arrow's aged quite well. I think, like you were saying just before, like it fell off towards the attempt at making a connected CW world. It got a bit muddy in the waters, and it got a bit, I feel, lost its charm for Green Arrow. Especially then Flash kind of was taking the limelight, so people were more intrigued in it.
Flash supremacy, baby.
I can't, I look back on it fondly enough, so I don't think it's aged badly. I don't think it's aged any better than what it was when it came out, sort of feeling. Don't know how you feel about Green Arrow.
I think a fair bit of it has aged quite well. It definitely had some very, very poor seasons. I want to say season 4 was the season where we got introduced to Damien Dark, and it was a very mystical season. That was hot garbage. And they learned from that straight away. Season 5 was solid. And then by 6 and 7, it was starting to spiral again. And that was just the fatigue of the CW universe still being villain of the week once we were getting these great shows that weren't. And like,
yeah,
when you're making 24 episodes for a season and it's connected to other, you don't have as much budget as Netflix do for Daredevil or DC or Marvel does for Moon Knight or Ms. Marvel or Secret Invasion or anything. I know it's happening at a different time, but still, no network show is getting that budget.
Yep.
And definitely not a super network show. The only ones that might have a chance to be like a Game of Thrones.
Yeah, agreed.
Rewatchability.
It's interesting. Because excuse me. I could see myself rewatching like the first season of Green Arrow. Like reliving those, like the early season when it was like hype, new character, like was into it. I feel like I'd have fond memory of that. I think though, like we've discussed with it being Hero of the Week, many episodes per season, that just leans to making Moon Knight easier to rewatch. Like Moon Knight's just one season. It's what, 6, 7 episodes? 6. Yeah, 6.
And you can watch it completely in a silo.
Yeah.
Which is very rare for an MCU project.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could just sit down and watch Moon Knight and it's no issue. You don't need to know any of the other stuff going on. And you could very easily sit down and watch that in like one sitting as well. Don't know how you feel.
I think I'm right there with you. I think at the moment I'm not dying to rewatch Moon Knight, but it's like 18 months old. I'm not in a rush to rewatch anything I've watched in the last 18 months. When it comes to stuff I've watched, I have a good memory for it. If I watch it too soon, I'm just like, I know what's happening here. It's not. You need to forget little parts of what you're watching to be able to enjoy it again, unless it's like your favourite thing ever. I think I'd very much agree with you. Green Arrow. Season 1 of Green Arrow was really, really good. I would definitely go back and watch that. I might binge a bit of it. I have a habit when I've seen a show before of binging until I want to watch something else.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting for me to start watching Green Arrow, because after 2 or 3 episodes of the first season, I'd be hooked again. And it'd be interesting to see at what point I go, right, I've had enough of this. Because at that point, like, that's a good litmus test for me to know when I'm like, right, should have called it there.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, bearing in mind the entire intro of Green Arrow is I was stranding on an island for 5 years. After season 5, when they're still doing flashbacks, I've had enough.
Yeah. They really needed to like let that go after a few
seasons. They didn't think they were going to get that many seasons. This is what always happens with American shows. They write really, really fucking awesome stuff for 2-3 seasons. They're like, we'll get cancelled eventually. And then they're like, I can't keep up this level for another 7 seasons. And you've just got the evil corporate overlords going, but you must.
Oh. There you go. That's Bob Iger.
I really tickle myself there, yeah. Story. Now, this is where I start to fear for Green Arrow slightly.
Yeah. This gets onto what we've discussed a few times now, that Green Arrow's villain of the week.
That is literally my only comment for Green Arrow story. Villain of the week.
We've been here before. We've discussed this.
Season 1 versus Moon Knight season 1. I think you've got a fair argument.
Yeah.
Season 1 actually had a story that was progressing basically every week in the background.
Yeah.
They just did like an A and a B story every single episode.
Yeah.
And some weeks the A story would be villain of the week, and sometimes the villain of the week story would be the B story, and the A story would be more about progressing the season story. They lost that as the seasons went on.
Yeah. I feel like they lost that as the other shows started getting introduced as well. Like too much going on.
Yeah. Whereas Moon Knight, although the pacing is a huge issue, the actual story is solid.
Yeah.
And it was a new style for the MCU we'd not seen with the way they were telling their story.
Yes.
We were like, normally as a viewer, you have insight that the character doesn't have. But in Moon Knight, we, for the most part, knew as much as Mark Spector did.
It kept
because
us guessing.
when he was blacking out and becoming one of his other personalities, we weren't seeing that.
Yes.
And it was a new style. I think it worked really well. I enjoyed it a lot. The only thing I would change is pacing. Make that 9 episodes instead of 6. Fill in a little bit more, and you've got a fucking much, much better show.
Other than like things we wish we would have got by the finale, I think come back down to pacing, like you say, a couple of more episodes, 2 or 3 more, it would have been solid. But like you say, the story was fun, great. The way that they told the story was new. It was like what I would class as that peak early day for the Disney shows, where like each one felt very different from the other, and they all had their own way of doing things and telling the story that was creative.
Yeah.
And that made it a good watch. And yeah, you can't really fault it for the pacing, really, and it being a bit too short to fit everything in.
Acting. This is probably, for me, the biggest difference.
Okay.
Because for me, the acting in Moon Knight was the strongest part of it. Strong performances from Oscar Isaac, May Calloway, and Ethan Hawke in like 3 big roles. They were all so good. Whereas it's the CW, they're TV actors doing a TV show. They're doing 24 episodes a season. They're learning the script overnight, ready for the next day.
Yep.
I think it was just a slow downwards trajectory because they were all excited and wanted it to be great at the beginning. And then I think a little bit of, what's the word? Where you
burnout?
Think you've got it locked up, so you stop trying as hard. Contemplation? No, not contemplation. Complacency.
Yeah.
A bit of complacency sets in. The stories aren't getting any more interesting because the writers are burnt out.
Yeah.
I think you get left with a show where everyone doesn't want to be there.
I think you're right. I think Stephen Amell does. I think he plays Oliver Queen very well. I think he's great for that role. I think you're right though. Like there was a bit really of like the writing dipped, and it then kind of bled into the actors kind of gave off like they were burnt out with what they were having to do, and then it all just kind of like started dipping down. It was just like
100%.
You could just tell that like the enthusiasm wasn't there anymore. Whereas with like Moon Knight, like you said, there was great performances across the board, and then you've got Oscar Isaac just like to play multiple personalities. Like
very distinctive characters.
You had to be an incredible actor to sell each of those as very distinct, different characters, and he did it perfectly.
And the best bit wasn't, I remember us talking about it when the show came out, you could physically see in his face when the personality changed.
Yes.
Which is not an easy thing to do as an actor.
Yeah.
I assume. As someone who doesn't act, I'm like, wow, that's fucking impressive. So I can only assume it's difficult.
Yeah, I remember when it came out and people being like, yeah, that's not CGI. Like, he's doing that himself. And it's like he's selling it himself. So yeah, the acting by far like was way better in Moon Knight.
100%. I don't mean that as a slight to the people who did make the Green Arrow probably a better show than it had any right to be. But it's just not the same caliber of acting. And also, the CW had TV actors.
Mm-hmm.
The Moon Knight had film actors who were doing a TV show.
Yeah, there is a difference.
Cinematography.
I mean,
it's
different eras.
Unfair category.
Yeah,
it's the most unfair category when we come to talking about a
TV show
versus a streaming service show.
Yeah, and especially when it's CW versus Disney, like the budget difference is just so wildly different.
How much was Green Arrow's budget?
Probably a drop in the water of Moon Knight.
By the looks of it, on average, it looks like they might have spent about 70 million a season on Green Arrow.
How much?
Which is a pretty expensive show, about 70 million.
So the cost for
average.
Moon Knight was 150 million for the season.
There you go. So on
double.
6 episodes, they've spent
25
more
million.
than what...
Yep, 3 episodes in, and they've spent the budget of Green Arrow.
Of an entire 24-episode season.
Yep.
That's the difference.
Yeah. There's, I mean, the visuals of Moon Knight, the way it's shot is obviously a lot more film-esque.
Yeah, a lot more cinematic. They don't have sets that they need to use for 10 years.
Yeah.
So they're going to be the bulk of the show and stuff like that.
Using the use of visual effects and stuff at some point, like across the board was great. CW also, you got to remember, like Moon Knight came out what, a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
CW like started back in 2012.
11 years ago.
Yeah, it's like the quality era as well of like what TV was doing back then, of what was the bar on TV was way lower than what is the bar nowadays. So it's like,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just such a big difference. So that puts Moon Knight forward.
Yeah, I mean, it feels bad. Again, it's not one of the ones I'm super happy about. But I can't sit here and say that all 8 seasons of Green Arrow were better than Moon Knight.
The thing is, like, Green Arrow, Flash, those CW shows, they kicked things off for superhero on TV. They did a good job at the beginning when they were fresh and the era that they came out. But then Disney, with their budget, and they've just come along and, like, yeah, they're going to raise the bar way higher. Same with Netflix. It is what it is. You're going to tell me next week? Yeah.
Next week. I have nailed it.
Oh,
for
okay.
what I've chosen to go up against what you chose.
Okay.
So you chose Amazing Spider-Man 1.
Yes.
A film that was panned, but ever since has only grown and has become more and more loved.
Yeah.
As my counter,
okay,
I also chose a film that was hated, despised, and has only grown more and more loved.
Oh no.
The Phantom Menace.
I knew it was going to be Star Wars. As soon as the way you were speaking, I was like, this is going to be Star Wars.
I think that is a brilliant fucking matchup.
It is, and it's going to be very difficult.
2 iconic franchises were hated for.
I already feel my bias, and I already feel your bias.
Yeah,
and it's just gonna.
And the best bit is we've chosen each other's.
It's true.
So that'll be next week. Amazing Spider-Man 1 versus the Phantom Menace.
Well, that's going to be an interesting discussion.
It will indeed. But that is it from us this week. As always, thank you very much for hanging out. We will not be back next week.
No, we won't.
We'll be back the week after.
Yeah, week off for me on my holidays.
So this is your chance to go catch up on anything you have not
watched.
have
a tan. We'll see.
Wait, you mean you're taking a week off and you're going outside?
Yes, I'm going to be touching grass and sand.
I've gone outside less this week.
Yeah, but you went away like 2 weeks ago, and then like 2 weeks before that.
2 weeks ago? It's like 2 months ago.
Yeah, no, it's the old blends.
But that is it from us. We will see you next time. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you in a bit.
See you next
Goodbye.
Next time.